Hi, and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's The Expanse character analysis for Camina Drummer. This video is a part of a series of videos where I analyze the character journey of a character from the Expanse TV show. In this video, I will be looking at Camina Drummer. These videos will only draw from material from the Expanse TV show and not the Expanse novels. So I have to start with a spoiler warning for the Expanse up to the end of Season 4. If you have not seen up to this point, you will not want to watch this video, otherwise some things will be spoiled for you. So, Camina Drummer is a member of the OPA and a strong believer of independence for the belt. For the most part, she is a Fred Johnson loyalist, and therefore believes in a more peaceful and reasonable path to independence for the belt, as opposed to certain factions which commit violent acts of terrorism to get their way. Drummer grew up on a series where she started her career in the OPA by joining Anderson Dawes' faction, a more ruthless faction, but not as violent as some of the others such as Black Skies or Anaurus' faction. After working with Dawes for a while, Drummer found him to be an egotistical, power-hungry politician who cared more about what was best for Anderson Dawes than what was best for the belt. She was present when Dawes recruited former UN Colonel Fred Johnson, known as the Butcher of Anderson Station, into the OPA. Drummer, eventually sick of Dawes' self-serving motivations, moved over to join with Fred Johnson, as she could see he generally cared more about helping the belt rather than serving his own interest. She eventually rose to be his chief of security and second in command on Tycho Station. Drummer first encountered the Rocinante crew when Fred Johnson worked with them on the mission to take over Throth Station to strike at the scientists directly responsible for the genocide on Eros. Drummer led one of the strike teams that attacked Throth Station, but they met with very little resistance. Afterwards, Drummer helped the Rocinante's chief engineer and XO, Naomi Nagata, in repairs of the Rocinante. Drummer gained a lot of respect for the Rocinante and its crew after the performance on the strike, and Drummer bonded with Naomi, playing sports and going to clubs together. Drummer assisted Fred Johnson in the crisis where Eros nearly collided with Earth, including helping to secure the UN missiles that they sent to destroy Eros. After the incident, the Rocinante returned, where Drummer resumed her friendship with Naomi, but shortly after, Anderson Dawes came on board to publicly shame Fred Johnson. Dawes, wanting the codes to control the missiles, he tried to use his past relationship with her to entice her to give them up to him, but she didn't, as she was sick of Dawes and his self-serving motives and was loyal to Fred Johnson. Dawes eventually found someone else on Johnson's team to corrupt, and he was able to learn that Johnson had one of the scientists that studied the protomolecule in his possession, and he was able to steal him away while at the same time publicly shaming Johnson once more. This led to some of Johnson's men betraying him to the Black Skies faction that seized control of Tycho Station's bridge in an attempt to take the missile codes by force. Johnson refused to give up the codes, so the Black Skies leader shot Drummer in the gut in order to entice him to do so, but he still refused. But thankfully, the Rocinante crew showed up and flooded the bridge with gas, knocking everyone unconscious, and when they came to, they had the Black Skies faction in handcuffs. However, Drummer exaggerated her injuries, and while Alex was assisting her to sickbay, she stole his gun and shot the Tycho Station engineer who betrayed them and the Black Skies leader who took them hostage, killing them both, and then she returned Alex's gun to him, showing just how much Drummer is not to be messed with. Fred Johnson did have a falling out with the Rosinante crew over a dispute on what to do with the crisis on Ganymede, so Drummer didn't hear from them or Naomi for a while. Later, Johnson revealed to her that Naomi Nagata gave him the coordinates to a sample of the protomolecule that they had discovered, and that Johnson now had the only known sample of the protomolecule in the belt in his possession, making him a very powerful man. He then reveals that he wants to make an alliance with Anderson Dawes, since Dawes has the only scientist who knows what to do with the protomolecule, and Johnson has the only sample of the protomolecule. Drummer is furious with Johnson at the suggestion, as she still blames Dawes for the attack that they suffered on Tycho and is still recovering from that encounter, and she doesn't trust Dawes one bit. But Johnson is adamant and sends her on a mission to retrieve the Nauvoo and retrofit it into a warship for the belt. Despite her anger with Johnson, she's still loyal to him and agrees to the mission. Over a year later, after the formation of the strange protomolecule ring at the outer edges of the system, Fred Johnson makes Drummer the captain of the retrofitted warship, now renamed the Behemoth. Naomi Nagata left the Rosinante to join the OPA and serves as the Behemoth's chief engineer and Drummer's most trusted officer. However, due to the truce between Johnson and Dawes, the role of the Behemoth's first officer goes to Dawes' most trusted man and a seasoned former pirate named Klaus Ashford. They are sent on a mission to represent the OPA at the ring, as Earth and Mars both sends fleets to study the alien structure. Drummer seeks Naomi's counsel as the more experienced officer. Ashford offers his guidance, which Drummer only views as attempts to undermine her authority. Ashford insists he's only there to serve her, but Drummer questions his motives, and he tries to make peace the way old pirates make peace, by sharing drinks and singing shanties. An incident occurs where a man has an accident and nearly kills himself and others because he was high on drugs. Drummer is told by Naomi who the drug dealer is, and she attempts to publicly execute him by throwing him out an airlock. However, Ashford talks her out of it by convincing her that if they want to be taken seriously as a nation, they need to start acting civilized, so she instead threatens anyone caught with drugs with incarceration. However, the situation at the ring comes to an head when a UN ship is destroyed by a bomb, and a message is sent to all ships in the vicinity that appears to be from James Holden of the Rosinante, claiming to be responsible for destroying the ship in the name of the OPA. While Drummer tries to find out more information on what's going on, Ashford urges that they need to act immediately to prove to the UN that they weren't involved in the bombing by attacking the Rosinante, and if they fail to do so, they will be destroyed by the UN. Drummer takes Ashford's advice and prepares to destroy the Rosinante. This sets off Naomi, who screams that the message is a fake, and Drummer has to have her restrained and gagged. However, the Rosinante barely manages to escape the Behemoth's attack by escaping into the ring. This act, however, alienates Naomi, Drummer's most trusted friend and confidant, from her. Eventually, the UN and Martian fleets announce their intention to follow the Rosinante into the ring, and Drummer deems the Behemoth needs to go in as well to establish the OPA in this exploration. Drummer then gives a big inspirational speech about how the belt's moment is now to prove itself, and Ashford backs her up as the crew stand behind her, and they all scream and chant in unison as they go into the ring. Naomi, however, is less excited as she's concerned for the fate of her friends, and eventually decides to flee the Behemoth in order to return to the Rosinante to check on them. Drummer, however, discovers her intentions and intercepts her. Naomi tries to convince her to let her go, but Drummer is disappointed in her that she would think that she would try to stop her, and thinks that Naomi doesn't understand her how much her friendship means to her, so she lets her go. This, however, creates a rift between Drummer and Ashford as Ashford questions her decision to let Naomi go in front of the crew and blames Drummer for giving up a key resource, and this creates discord between the crew. Drummer goes off to retrofit farming equipment into pros to blow off some steam, but Ashford goes to her to try to mend fences. This is when the speed limit in the slow zone suddenly changes and all the ships there suffer massive casualties due to the sudden deceleration. Drummer and Ashford get stuck on opposite ends of the farming equipment, and eventually, after some bonding, Drummer sacrifices herself so that Ashford will be free. Drummer, while severely injured, survives, and Ashford rushes to save her life. And then Ashford unites the UN, Martian, and OPA forces by offering them all to come on board the Behemoth, where their wounded can heal under spin gravity. When Drummer wakes up, she is told by the doctors that there was severe damage to her spinal cord and she's paralyzed from the waist down. Not giving up, Drummer begins to build a mech rig that would let her move around. She then receives a visit from Naomi, who asks for her help to see James Holden, who is being detained on the Behemoth. Drummer makes a deal with her that if she helps her finish the mech rig, she'll help her see Holden, and the two of them resume their friendship. Once they do see Holden, he insists that the way to save everyone is to get out of the ring space, is to deactivate all of the drives on all of the ships at the same time. But when Drummer tries to propose this plan to Ashford, who is now in command of the Behemoth, he's obviously won't go for it. So Drummer goes with Naomi and Holden on a commando mission to the engine room to force the shutdown. Once there, however, they discovered that Ashford plans to fire on the ring in order to destroy it, but Holden insists that such an action would cause the ring to destroy all of humanity everywhere. However, Ashford is stubborn and won't back down, and he sends men in stolen Martian battlesuits to stop them. And they make easy work of Drummer's allies, killing them, but she, Holden, and Naomi barely manage to escape, making their way alive by escaping into the elevator shaft. However, they are pursued by Ashford's last surviving man in the battlesuit, and the situation seems impossible, so Drummer decides to sacrifice herself so that Naomi and Holden can live, and she waits with bombs in her hands for her pursuer to arrive so that she can kill him. But before that happens, Naomi activates the elevators, which kills their pursuer, making her sacrifice unnecessary. And Holden and Naomi head to the command center, where they manage to stop Ashford, and in doing so succeed in rescuing their ships and stopping the destruction of humanity by also opening a system of gates that would allow humanity to instantly travel to over 300 habitable worlds across the galaxy. Over a year later, Drummer commands the Behemoth, which has been once again renamed Medina Station, as it now operates as the hub inside the ring space, a stronghold for the OPA, as they have a tenuous alliance with the UN and the Martian forces, who have blockaded the ring gates. Ashford still serves as her first officer, and the two of them have reconciled their differences and in fact have become good friends. A crisis arises where a rogue faction of the OPA, led by a man named Marco Inaros, starts attacking cargo ships attempting to go through the ring space, killing their crews and stealing their supplies. This threatens their alliance with the UN and Mars, so Ashford and Drummer team up to stop Inaros, and after Ashford tracks him down, Drummer forms an alliance with several other OPA factions to capture Inaros. However, when they stand in an airlock preparing to execute Inaros, he makes an impassioned speech to the leaders of these factions on how they need to fight back against the Inners. And Drummer can tell that Marco's words got to two of them, and if she were to overrule them and execute Inaros, this would lead to a Belter civil war. So in order to avoid that, she lets Inaros go. Ashford scolds her for doing this, saying that it was a mistake. And when Marco commits further acts of terrorism on the UN, Drummer starts to question it herself. They manage to gather intel that Inaros is preparing a big attack on Earth, and just as she and Ashford are preparing to go out and stop him, she's surprised to discover that Fred Johnson had already given the intel to Earth, and they sent battleships to apprehend Marco, but instead ended up killing Belter civilians and the UN troops sent to apprehend him. When Fred Johnson arrives on Medina Station, Drummer punches him in the face for doing this. Johnson insists that if she hadn't have let Marco go in the first place, he wouldn't have had to do it, but she said that she was faced with a hard decision and chose to avoid a Belter civil war that would have fractured the OPA. Johnson also insists that he was faced with a tough decision, but Drummer doesn't buy it, and she now sees Johnson as just as devious and self-serving of a politician as Dawes ever was, and so she resigns and leaves the OPA in anger. Ashford tries to talk Drummer out of this decision, but her mind is made up. Ashford then reveals that he intends to take a strike team out and kill Marco Inaros once and for all, and Drummer insists that they share a drink together before they leave, but he insists they'll do so when he gets back, and Drummer wishes him well. But Ashford won't return, as Marco ends up capturing him and has Ashford blown out into space, where he dies in the vacuum of space. But not before he sends out a recording of Marco, which implies his next big plans to attack Earth. So Drummer is a very volatile and strong leader of the Belt. She came from a very rough upbringing, which has made her jaded but also resilient. After leaving men like Dawes for being self-serving, she ends up becoming Fred Johnson's most reliable ally until she eventually leaves him, as she found him to be just as deceptive and self-serving as Dawes. But along the way, she made an invaluable friendship with Rosnate's chief engineer, Naomi Nagata, which would help her through her first command, where her inexperience would get in her way, but her instincts and resilience would help her overcome and help save humanity. Drummer may be volatile, but unlike politicians like Dawes or Johnson, she's a straight shooter, similar to Holden and Naomi, so it's no surprise that she would often ally herself with them, as she does really want what's best for the Belt and not herself. And her friendship with Ashford was also a strength, as it was a rough relationship to begin with for sure, but she eventually relied on his friendship and his wisdom to navigate the difficulties of command. So it remains to be seen how his death will affect her and how she will deal with the upcoming threat of Marco Inaros, whom she let get away. So that's it for my character analysis for Camina Drummer. Be sure to check out my channel for more videos on the Expanse, including my extensive coverage of Season 5 starting in December. Also check out my channel for many more videos and other shows like Discovery, Star Trek, Breaking Bad, The Outer Limits, and more. So be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that. And thanks a lot for watching.